Hey folks, welcome to another Triple T Thursday. For those just joining us, that's Tools, Tips, and Talk, where we'll discuss info for the knife maker. As you can see in today's episode, I'm up in my office because we're going to be reviewing the xTool F1 Ultra. I have a really good relationship with the xTool folks. I've reviewed a few of their lasers already, and they sent me the F1 Ultra to take a look. I have the xTool F1, which I've done a video on, which I think is an amazing laser for knife makers. This one might turn out even better. This is going to be a two-part video. I'm going to mostly go over the functions of the laser in this video, and we'll cover attachments probably next month in another video. So stay tuned. So this is what the xTool folks sent me. This is the laser. This is the smoke purifier and the conveyor. And the first thing I noticed as soon as I got it, I was extremely surprised at the size of these boxes. For comparison, there's my xTool F1. This is only about 8 inches by 6 inches by about 16 inches. The F1 Ultra is a much bigger machine, so let's get it unpacked and see what it looks like. So I've got it unpacked, and you can see the F1 Ultra is a much bigger machine, probably twice the size in all dimensions. So it's a much bigger machine. Let's talk about the stats. So the F1 is a diode laser and an IR laser combined. So it's a 2-watt IR laser. Okay, that's an infrared laser. This one has a diode laser, which I think is the same as this one, but it has a 20-watt fiber laser. Okay, so much more powerful, and it's an actual fiber laser. Okay, so I'm going to start this up. We're going to do just a little test etch on a piece of metal and see what it does. So I've got the laser all set up and calibrated. You have to go through this little calibration step where it prints these two little pluses on this piece of cardboard, and you have to play with the laser and things like that, which I've done. Interestingly, this laser, as opposed to the F1, comes with a little touch screen instead of the knob, which moves the laser up and down. I kind of like that because my computer is actually at the other end of the table, so I like to be able to put this over closer to the computer, and that saves me walking back and forth. But you can just use these arrows to move the laser up and down, and then there's a start button and a framing button, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to start just with a little piece of steel, and I'm going to use similar settings than I would on the F1 without testing anything, just to see what it's like. Okay, so here I am in the xTool Creative Space software. This is the same software as the F1, it's just a slightly newer version. I've connected to the xTool F1 Ultra over here. I loaded up. I had a program saved from last time, but you could just drag and drop an image into here. So I'm using one of basically my Maker's Mark. I'm going to just zoom in on this a little bit so you guys can see it. If you click on it, it'll tell you the last settings you used. I just went in and set this basically to 50% of whatever the maximum values are. So max dot duration 3000, I set it to 1500, 50 instead of 100, and 500 DPI. I'm going to do one pass. And I've got it set on the fiber laser, not the blue light, which is the diode laser. I actually have a small piece of 1095 set up under the laser. I'm going to hit go, and you're going to see. Actually, I'll show you what the framing looks like first. So here's my piece of 1095. You can see the two dots are a little off. I'm just going to lower the laser until those two dots converge. So now I'm going to frame it. Okay, so that's where it's going to be. I'm just going to move this to give us a little more room. So this is a piece of unhardened 1095. It's just annealed, and then I'm going to hit go on the computer. Just for safety, I've lowered the hood, and I'm going to press start. So that took 22 seconds. And it's definitely dark, but it's actually raised. I can feel it's raised up instead of dug down into the steel, probably because I have the laser too high. So what I'm going to do is do a test range of these in different settings, and we'll check how they do. So here's a little test piece that I did. You can see the dot duration along the side and the power along the bottom. All of these here are super raised and they're not very clear. So it looks like anything above 50% power on something like this just creates too much. This must be some kind of scale that's forming. So these are not really viable. So what looks really good is about 50% power, and there's not a ton of difference between the dot duration. I mean, the ones down here are a little bit clearer, but it doesn't seem to make a ton of difference between the dot duration. What I did was I did another run just testing at 35% power, which was the second column over there, the different dot durations with 5 passes. And I think around even the bottom one, like the 900 dot duration, looks really good. But I don't really think the 5 passes really made that much difference. If I look at this one and this one, this is 1 pass, this is 5. Sorry, this one. I guess it's a little bit darker because it would be the same as this one. But I get the same thing and pretty much the same clarity just going up to 50% power. So for me it looks like 50% power and about 900 on the dot duration is kind of what I want my Maker's Mark to look like. By the way, I switched to a piece of hardened 1084. That's what this is. So this is hardened steel. Next, I'm going to try it on a piece of AEBL stainless with the same settings, this same grid, but I'm only going to go up to 50%. Well, this is the AEBL hardened stainless. This is the 1080. And you can see it doesn't go quite as dark with the same settings on the AEBL. I think the 3000, in fact, the power rating doesn't really seem to make that much difference here compared to here, where the power between these three made quite a bit of difference. More important is the dot duration here. It's definitely darker as we go from 900 to 1950 to 3000. So I may have to have different settings for stainless than for high carbon looking at these results. But certainly anything in the, even the 1950 by 40%, which is about here between these two and this one, is really nice. I mean, I'm totally happy with those. If you wanted it a little darker, you could do 2 or 3 passes. But let's change our settings to 2000 at 40% and do a couple here. Here's a piece again. This was run at 40% power, 2000 dot duration. This is 1 pass, 3 pass, 5 passes. They're pretty much identical. I mean, this one's just a tad darker, but I don't know that it's worth it to run 5 passes. This one took 25 seconds, and this is 75 and 125 seconds. So, I would tend to go with the 1 pass, maybe 3, but you could just jack up the power a little bit, and these look pretty much identical to me. So that's what I think I'm going to use. Probably 50% power at about 2000 dot duration seems to be the sweet spot. So I had a question from a friend. What happens if your knife is mirror polished? Will that screw up the laser? So I just went and did this. This is a mirror polished piece of stainless steel, and it etched no problem. And if you want a different effect on this, you can actually produce color. So let's give that a shot. So I've set up another test array, very similar to the other one, except this time I'm going all the way up to 100% power, and I'm going to be using the blue laser. This is going to induce different amounts of heat into the steel, and I'm going to be doing this on stainless steel, and that should produce different colors. So let's give it a try. It's probably a bit hard for you guys to pick up on the camera, but I definitely see different colors here. For example, this one is a bluish color, and it's really funny because just the power change between these two, between 42% and 50%, this one came out like a dull color, and these get kind of purpley, and it looks like it does make a difference here on the dot duration. So I didn't do a full grid, but you certainly are going to get different colors. And this is only ground to 120 grit. I think if I would have made it a little shinier, you probably would have been able to see them better and would have done a nicer finish on this. But certainly if you wanted something with some depth, you could do it with the fiber laser and then go over it again with the diode laser to give it some color. So pretty cool stuff. We're going to move on from steel for a little bit, and now I'm going to be doing my business card. So I'm going to be using the black lacquered business cards that came in my material kit, and I'm going to be using the fiber laser at these settings, 160, 30, 500 DPI. And I'm going to be doing one pass, and we'll see how that does and if I get a decent business card. Let's see how it does. So here's our business card that took about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to laser, which is really cool. And I'm excited to show you guys in the next video the conveyor, which would make this immensely easier. But let's move on to some other things. What I'm going to try to do is cut out my logo out of a piece of 3mm basswood that was included in my material pack. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to select it, and then over here under trace image, I'm going to select that. I'm just going to pick the defaults. And if I drag what it created, you'll see that I get a little outline. I'm just going to delete the original, move that back. Now I'm going to change the material type, and I'm going to pick this 3mm basswood, okay, which has changed the power types here, but I'm on score. What I want to do is actually cut it. So to cut it, it's going to be 100% power at 5 millimeters per second. So let's give it a shot. So that might have been a little strong on the settings. I was using the default. I would either speed that up a little bit or lower the power. It did burn it a little bit, but you see it did cut out the shark pretty well. One of my Patreon members reached out to me and asked me if I would engrave a sheath, a leather sheath with his logo. So Dale at Allegheny Mountain Knives, I selected his logo, which he sent me. And I wasn't really sure what settings to use, and the xTool guys have a great way to do this. If it's not one that's listed here, you just go to More xTool Materials. You can go Filter. I'm going to pick Leather. You can pick which machine you're talking about. It automatically selects mine, which is the F1 Ultra. I'll hit Apply, and then it shows me everything that applies here, so I'm just going to pick this leather magnetic phone case. It's leather, it should be the same. And if I go here, it tells me that using the IR laser, it should be 55% power, 600 on the dot duration. So Oh, and frequency is 30 kilohertz. So that's what we're going to go and do. We'll select this. 655, I've set it up for 30. Let's go engrave this logo. Well, there's the sheath engraved. I think it came out really nice. It's nice and deep, and yeah, I think he'll be happy with it. Well, folks, that's my initial review of the F1 Ultra Laser. I'm really happy with it. We did high carbon steel, stainless steel, mirror polished stainless steel. All works great. I think you can do them in one pass. I can do my maker's mark at least 2 to 3 times faster than I used to, which with much more clarity, and it looks great. So I'm really pleased with it. We also did some business cards. We did sheaths. We cut some wood. This thing will do it all. Having the dual laser in it is really nice. Now the price point on this one is a little high compared to the F1. You can get the F1 I think for $15.99. The F1 Ultra is $39.99, but it's a fiber laser, so they're pretty pricey. I'm going to talk about in the next video what I think are the most impressive things about this machine is the attachments. And I think you really want to tune in for that one. We're going to take a look at the conveyor, the rotary tool, the air purifier. Those are what I think sets this apart from a lot of other machines. So definitely return back next month. We'll do another review on this laser. Thanks, folks. We'll see you on the next one.